Have you ever wondered why so many of us feel completely lost when it comes to work? Why we can be surrounded by opportunities yet feel like something is missing deep inside? There's a reason for that, a reason that's quietly shaped how we see ourselves and our place in the world since we were children. From the moment we were old enough to dream, we were told we needed to find our purpose, that there's a grand singular reason we were put on this earth. And if we could just figure it out, everything else would fall into place like magic. We'd wake up excited every morning, do what we love, and never work a day in our lives. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? But here's the truth. Most people never hear this idea, as inspiring as it sounds, is completely misleading. It sets us up for frustration, anxiety, and a lingering sense of failure. Because work your job, your career, your 9 to 5 is not your purpose. Work is a tool, a platform, a means to something greater. But somewhere along the way, we bought into the lie that our job should be the thing that defines us. That if we're not head over heels, passionate about what we do for a living, if we're not living and breathing our careers, then we've somehow failed at life. That belief is a trap. It's what keeps so many people stuck in cycles of doubt, feeling anxious, empty, or like they're always missing out on something everyone else seems to have. Think about it. How do we usually introduce ourselves? Hi, I'm a doctor. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. We wear our job titles like name tags for our identity, as if what we do between 9 and 5 sums up the entirety of who we are. But what happens when work is the only pillar holding up our sense of purpose? What happens when we lose that job, when we get laid off, switch careers, or retire? What happens when we wake up one day and realize that the thing we thought was our life's passion just doesn't fulfill us anymore? If our entire sense of self is built on a foundation of work, the moment it shifts even slightly, we crumble. We start questioning ourselves, wondering what's wrong with us, spiraling into fear that we'll never find what we're supposed to do. It's an exhausting way to live. Now, don't get me wrong, work is important. Of course it is. It gives us structure, challenges us, and lets us contribute to something bigger than ourselves. But it is not and was never meant to be the whole story of your life. When we put all the pressure on our jobs to make life meaningful, we're setting ourselves up for inevitable disappointment. Because here's what really happens to countless people. They chase a dream job, thinking it'll solve everything, imagining they'll feel complete the moment they land it. But after a few years, or sometimes just a few months, they start to feel restless, bored, or even trapped. They convince themselves the problem is the job itself, so they begin the hunt for a better one. A job with a cooler title, a bigger paycheck, a company with better perks. They tell themselves that's the one. That job will finally make me feel whole. But once they get it, the same emptiness slowly returns. The cycle repeats, and with each spin they feel more lost. The problem isn't the job. The problem is the unrealistic expectation we've been taught to place on it. When we see work as the one thing that should fulfill us completely, we turn it into an idol. But when we shift our mindset, when we start seeing work for what it truly is, a tool, a resource, a stepping stone, it changes everything. Suddenly, work becomes something we can use to build a fuller life rather than something that consumes our entire identity. Instead of constantly asking ourselves, "Is this my one true calling?" we start asking better questions. What am I learning here? How is this job helping me grow? What skills am I developing that will serve me down the road? Who am I becoming through the challenges I face every day? These questions don't chain you to a single career path. They free you to see every experience, every role, every challenge as part of your journey. That mindset shift makes all the difference. It takes the pressure off work to be perfect. It frees you to explore different paths without feeling like you've failed if something doesn't fit forever. It gives you space to pivot, experiment, and evolve over time because you were never meant to be defined by just one job, one company, or one narrow identity. When you stop seeing work as your entire foundation and start recognizing it as just one part of your life, a part that can support your dreams but not carry the full weight of them, you open yourself up to a richer, more resilient sense of purpose. Suddenly you realize your identity can be rooted in your relationships, your passions outside of work, your values, your growth, and your impact on others. Work becomes something you shape to serve your life, not the other way around. And that's what gives you true freedom. Because when you understand that work is not your purpose, but a tool, you don't panic when seasons change. You don't crumble when a job ends. You don't stay stuck in a role that drains you just because you think you're supposed to. Instead, you can adapt, grow, and keep moving toward what matters most, knowing that who you are is so much bigger than what you do for a living. So if you've ever felt like you're missing something because your job doesn't light your soul on fire every morning, take a deep breath. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are simply human, living in a world that sold you a half-truth. It's time to let go of the belief that work must define you and start building a life where your work serves you, supports your journey, and helps you become the person you're meant to be. Your work doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be your dream job right away, wrapped in a bow and tailor-made for every one of your passions. It just has to be useful. It has to move you forward, teach you something new, and provide for you while you build a bigger, richer picture of the life you actually want. You see, some of the most successful and fulfilled people you'll ever meet didn't stumble upon a burning passion first and then start working. They did the opposite. They got to work first, often in jobs that weren't glamorous or even enjoyable, and then passion found them along the way. They treated each job, each role, each opportunity as a single chapter, not the entire book. And that perspective allowed them to keep growing, to keep experimenting, and to avoid getting stuck in the endless, paralyzing search for a perfect, all-consuming purpose. So if you're feeling lost, if you catch yourself lying awake at night, wondering why your work isn't lighting you up the way you were told, maybe it's time to rethink the question entirely. Maybe instead of endlessly asking, "What is my purpose?" you should try asking, "What am I creating? Who am I becoming? How am I using what's right in front of me today to build something greater tomorrow?" Because here's the truth. Most people never learn. Purpose isn't something you magically find one day like a hidden treasure buried under the perfect job title. Purpose is something you build piece by piece through your daily actions, your small and big choices, your growth, and the experiences that stretch you. And when you finally understand that work stops being a source of stress, a measure of your worth, or a constant worry, and starts becoming a powerful tool for something far bigger than a paycheck or a title. For the longest time, we've been told that success looks a certain way. It's the impressive job title that makes heads turn, the fancy office high above the city, the applause and respect from colleagues, the sense that you've made it. And so we chase it. We work longer hours, climb higher ladders, push ourselves harder and harder, all because we believe that when we finally reach that mountaintop, the emptiness we feel inside will magically disappear. But then, something strange happens. Something almost no one warns you about. You hit that milestone you've been dreaming of. You achieve the goal everyone told you was the key to happiness. And instead of feeling fulfilled, you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel trapped, stuck in a role or identity you thought would set you free. This is what I call the success trap. It's a vicious cycle where we keep running toward what the world tells us is important, only to realize, often too late, that it doesn't satisfy us the way we thought it would. And here's the tricky part. When you're deep inside the success trap, it doesn't feel like a trap at all. It feels like progress. It feels like you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. That's why it's so easy to ignore the subtle warning signs, the exhaustion that doesn't go away with a good night's sleep, the stress that weighs on your chest like a heavy stone, the quiet voice at the back of your mind whispering, "Is this really it?" I know people who have reached the very top of their fields, who have built companies, empires, and legacies. And yet, in their quietest, most honest moments, they'll admit they feel completely lost. They did everything right. They followed the script, perfectly checked every box, and still, something is missing. Why? Because they never stopped to ask themselves a crucial question. Whose definition of success am I chasing if you're spending your days climbing toward success based on someone else's blueprint? Whether it's society's expectations, your family's unspoken pressures, or even an old version of yourself that no longer fits who you are now, you will always feel like something is off, like there's a missing piece you can't quite find. The truth is, success is not a one-size-fits-all destination. It's deeply personal. What feels fulfilling to one person might feel like a prison to another. That's why one of the most important shifts you can make in your life is to stop measuring yourself against someone else's yardstick. Start asking yourself, what do I truly value? What kind of impact do I want to have? What kind of life do I want to wake up to every day? Because we've been conditioned to believe that success is about getting the job, getting the money, getting the recognition. But real success, the kind that fills you instead of draining you, isn't about what you get. It's about what you give. It's about the contribution you make, the lives you touch, the love you spread, and the way you show up in the world with integrity and heart. And when you shift your focus from "how can I be successful" to "how can I be useful," everything starts to change. I once spoke with a man who had spent his entire life building a multi-million-dollar company. On the outside, he had it all: the sleek cars, the grand house, the luxury vacations. By any conventional standard, he was the embodiment of success. But when I asked him a simple question, "Are you happy?" he paused. His eyes dropped to the floor, and after a long, uncomfortable silence, he said something I'll never forget. "I've spent my whole life building something, but I don't know if I ever built something that actually matters." That's the haunting truth of the success trap. You can spend your entire life climbing a ladder only to realize at the very end that it was leaning against the wrong wall. And that's why it's so important to pause now, not later, to question what you're pursuing and why you're pursuing it. Because the right time to start living a life of meaning isn't someday in the future. It's today. So if you find yourself stuck in a job that feels empty, if you've reached milestones that should feel satisfying but somehow leave you cold, don't rush to throw everything away. Don't assume you're broken. Instead, take a step back and reflect. Ask yourself better questions. Look at how your current work, no matter how imperfect it might seem, can become a stepping stone for something greater. Something more aligned with the values that make you come alive. Remember, you don't need your job to complete you. You don't need your title to define you. You just need your work to move you forward, teach you, challenge you, and give you the tools to build a life that truly reflects who you are and what you care about. Because at the end of the day, real purpose isn't something you find in a dream job. It's something you create piece by piece, through courage, growth, and the choice to live each day with intention. That moment hit me hard, because if we're not careful, we can get so caught up in chasing achievement after achievement that we forget to stop and ask, do these accomplishments even mean anything to us? Are they moving us closer to the life we truly want, or just ticking boxes on someone else's checklist? So how do we break free from this exhausting success trap? First, we have to be brave enough to redefine success entirely on our own terms, not based on what turns heads or what looks impressive on paper, but on what actually makes us feel alive inside. Second, we have to understand that real fulfillment doesn't come from external rewards, like titles or trophies. It comes from alignment. It comes from the quiet confidence of knowing how you spend your time reflects what you actually care about. And don't worry, this doesn't mean you have to quit your job or abandon your responsibilities overnight. It simply means you start showing up for your own life with intention. You begin asking yourself honestly, am I building a life that feels good on the inside, or am I only trying to make it look good from the outside? Because if your life looks successful but doesn't feel successful, something's got to change. And here's the most liberating truth: you get to decide what success means for you. No one else. Not your parents. Not your boss. Not society. Just you. And once you start defining success on your own terms, you'll notice something incredible. Work stops feeling like a daily battle to prove yourself. Instead, it becomes a chance to express who you are, to contribute in a way that matters to you, and to build something that lasts beyond just a paycheck or a promotion. If you've ever felt lost, if you've ever reached a goal only to wonder why it doesn't feel the way you thought it would, maybe it's time to pause and ask, am I chasing what truly matters to me? Because when you build a life focused on meaning instead of just milestones, you won't just find success, you'll find freedom. Most people wake up every morning thinking of work as an obligation, something they have to do, something that steals their time, drains their energy, and keeps them from truly living. They set alarms, they dread commute to jobs they resent, and spend hour after hour on tasks that leave them feeling empty, all for a paycheck that barely feels worth it. Over time, this cycle breeds. Resentment makes people feel stuck and leaves them wondering if life is supposed to feel this exhausting. But what if I told you that work itself isn't the real problem? It's the way we see it. We've been conditioned to think of work as a heavy burden we just have to endure to survive, and because of that, we spend more time resisting work than engaging with it. But what if we flipped the script? What if work wasn't just an obligation, but an opportunity? An opportunity to learn, to grow, to create, to serve, and to become a little more than we were yesterday. Because when you start seeing work that way, it changes everything. Now, I'm not saying you need to love every single second of your job. Let's be real. Some days are hard, some tasks are boring, and some moments feel downright impossible. But the issue isn't the work itself. It's the mindset we bring to it. If you show up every morning thinking, this is something I just have to get through, you'll always feel trapped and drained. But if you wake up saying, this is a chance to build something, to sharpen my skills, to make a difference in even a small way, work starts to feel different. It starts to feel like a meaningful part of your life, instead of something stealing your life from you. I once met a man who worked as a janitor in a hospital. Most people wouldn't see that job as anything remarkable. But he didn't see himself as just a janitor. He saw himself as part of the healing process. He told me, I make sure these hallways are spotless because sick people walk through them every day. I keep their rooms clean so they feel comfortable and cared for. I know my work matters, even if most people never notice. And you know what? He was one of the happiest people I had ever met, not because he had the easiest job or the highest salary, but because he didn't see his work as a chore. He saw it as a contribution. And that's the key. The way you choose to see your work will always determine how you experience it. Even if your current job isn't your dream role, even if it's not where you hope to spend the rest of your career, you can still approach it with a mindset that makes it meaningful. You can still use it as a stepping stone, a training ground, a place to develop discipline, patience, creative problem-solving, and resilience, all skills that will serve you wherever you go next. The people who find the most happiness and fulfillment in their work aren't necessarily the ones with the fanciest titles or the biggest offices. They're the ones who bring the best attitude to whatever job they have. They're the ones who start each day asking themselves, how can I grow here? How can I use this experience to get better, stronger, more prepared for what comes next? Because the truth is, work isn't just about making money. It's about making you. It's about shaping your habits, strengthening your mindset, and building your ability to handle challenges with grace and determination. If you only see work as a way to pay the bills, you miss out on everything else it has to offer you. You miss the opportunity to learn about yourself, to test your limits, to build confidence, and to develop skills that will carry you forward in every area of life. But let's be real, some jobs truly do feel like a grind. Some workplaces are toxic environments where it's hard to find meaning. Some days, you'll wake up with every part of you dreading the tasks ahead. And that's okay. The goal isn't to pretend every job is perfect or to slap on a fake smile every day. The goal is to find your reason for showing up even when the work itself isn't ideal. Maybe your why isn't about the job at all. Maybe it's about the people you get to serve or support each day. Maybe it's about the lessons you're learning about patience, perseverance, or communication that you know will pay off down the road. Maybe it's about the doors this experience will open for your future. Whatever it is, find your why. Because when you have a reason to show up, that goes beyond the paycheck. Work stops feeling like a prison and starts feeling like a platform, a launch pad for the next chapter of your life. And here's something else worth remembering. Work is just one part of your life. It's important, yes, but it's not everything. You are more than your job. Your identity is not defined by your job title, and your value isn't determined by what you produce between 9 and 5. You are a whole person with dreams, relationships, passions, and stories that matter just as much as your career, maybe even more. The moment you stop expecting your job to be the only thing that defines you, the pressure starts to lift. You stop needing it to be perfect. You stop tying your entire sense of self-worth to your performance or your productivity. And that's when you finally feel free. You start to breathe easier. You begin to see work for what it really is, an opportunity, not an obligation. A tool, not a cage. A place where you can show up, give your best, learn something new, and then go home to the life you're building beyond your job. So if you've been feeling stuck lately, if work has begun to feel like a burden you can't shake instead of a blessing, you can appreciate, maybe it's time to shift your perspective. Maybe it's time to stop asking, what am I getting from this? And start asking, what am I becoming through this? Because the way you choose to see your work will shape the way you experience your entire life. And once you start seeing work as an opportunity to grow, instead of just an obligation to survive, everything starts to change your attitude, your energy, your peace of mind. People love to say, follow your passion. It sounds inspiring, doesn't it? Like there's some magical, perfect thing out there just waiting for you to find it. Something that will make every day feel easy and exciting. We're often told that if we just find our one true calling, the perfect passion, work will feel effortless, and life will feel complete, like everything will finally click into place. But let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. How many of us actually know what our passion is right away? How many people spend years chasing something they think will fulfill them, only to discover that passion alone isn't enough to sustain them? The truth is, passion is only one piece of the puzzle. It's not the entire answer, because passion by itself doesn't pay the bills. Passion alone doesn't automatically make you skilled or effective at what you do. And passion alone certainly doesn't guarantee you'll love every moment of the work once you're deep in the trenches of it. What no one tells you is that passion often isn't something you just stumble upon, fully formed. It's something you build day by day. Passion grows from mastery, from making progress, from putting in the effort, and seeing yourself improve over time. It's not only about doing what you love, it's about learning to love what you do, because you've invested in it, struggled through it, and become better at it. Think about it, the world's most successful athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, and leaders didn't wake up one morning with complete clarity, knowing exactly what they were born to do. They started somewhere, often unsure, often fumbling, often wondering if they were on the right path. They faced setbacks, they made mistakes, but they kept showing up. They practiced, they learned, they developed skills, and over time, passion began to grow because they had earned it through effort and perseverance. They didn't wait for passion to magically find them. They built it through dedication. That's the problem with telling people to just follow your passion. It makes so many believe that if they're not instantly in love with something, it must not be the right thing for them. So they quit too soon. They bounce from one pursuit to the next, always searching for that elusive spark, but never sticking around long enough to create it. They mistake the absence of instant excitement for a sign to give up, when in reality, real fulfillment isn't found by chasing fleeting feelings. It's found through commitment, through growth, and through the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you're good at something that matters. Does passion matter? Of course it does. Passion is powerful fuel. But passion alone isn't enough. You also need skills. You need opportunities. You need a way to make your passion sustainable so it can support your life instead of becoming a source of frustration. Because if your passion is painting, but you've never spent time practicing, no one will pay you for your art. If you love music but never invest time to learn and improve your talent, will remain a hobby, not a calling. Passion without skill is just a dream. But when you combine passion with discipline, with learning, with persistence, that's when it transforms into something real and powerful. So instead of asking yourself, "What's my passion?" maybe a better question is, "What can I get really good at?" Because the better you get at something, the more you start to love it. The more you see the impact of your work, the more meaningful and rewarding it becomes. And sometimes the thing you end up becoming passionate about is something you never expected at all, simply because you were willing to stick with it long enough to find out what it could become. I've seen people discover passion in the most unexpected places. I knew a man who took a job in construction just to pay the bills, thinking it would be temporary. But over time, he fell in love with the craft of building, watching something rise from nothing, knowing he played a part in creating something tangible and lasting. I've seen a woman who started in sales because she needed a paycheck, but she found real joy in connecting with people, understanding their needs, and helping them solve problems they couldn't tackle alone. Passion wasn't what got them started. It was what they discovered along the way as they put in the effort and saw what they were capable of. That's why I always say, don't just follow your passion. Follow your effort. Follow what you're willing to work at day after day, even when it's hard. Follow what excites you enough to keep going, even when you feel like giving up. Because passion isn't what makes you successful. It's what grows as you stay committed, what blossoms as you sharpen your skills, what deepens as you see the fruits of your work. And as you learn to build your passion, instead of waiting for it, you'll find a sense of purpose that's grounded in real progress, one that can weather the ups and downs of life and give your work meaning you never imagined at the start. After realizing that passion is something you build, not something you wait to find, here's what comes next. Understanding that great effort is what makes you great. And when you become great at something, that's what makes it truly fulfilling. Maybe you're sitting there right now thinking, but what if I have no idea what I want to do? That's perfectly okay. You don't have to have your whole path mapped out, but you do have to start somewhere. Pick something, anything that sparks even a little curiosity, and begin. Learn, improve, see where it takes you. Because clarity doesn't come from sitting around lost in endless thought. It comes from taking action, from stepping forward even when you're unsure. And the more you do, the more you'll discover what energizes you, what excites you, what challenges you in a way that makes you want to keep pushing forward. And remember, your passion can and likely will change over time. What thrills you today might not be what inspires you 10 years from now, and that's completely normal. But if you build skills, if you develop the ability to adapt, if you learn how to create value in whatever field you find yourself in, then no matter where life takes you, you'll always have options. You'll never be stuck waiting around for passion to magically appear and save you because you'll know the truth. Passion isn't something you find, it's something you build. With every effort, every lesson, every small step. So if you've been waiting, searching, hoping that one day your perfect passion will just reveal itself, it's time to stop waiting. Start where you are with what you have. Get good at something, anything, and work at it. See where it leads you. Because passion isn't a final destination, it's a process. And when you commit to that process, when you show up consistently and put in the work, you won't just find passion, you'll uncover a sense of purpose that gives your life direction and meaning. And that changes everything. Feeling lost is one of the most unsettling experiences we can face in life. It creeps in quietly sometimes, after years of following a path you thought was right, only to wake up one day questioning everything you've built. Maybe you've reached a point where the job that once inspired you now feels empty. Maybe you've checked all the boxes: career, home, stability, and yet you can't shake the feeling that something essential is missing. Or maybe you never figured out what you were supposed to do in the first place, and now you're wondering if you ever will. The first thing I want to tell you is this: feeling lost doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you. In fact, it often means you're on the edge of something new, something that could change your life in ways you can't yet imagine. Feeling lost is important. Yes, important, because being lost forces you to stop and finally ask yourself the question most people spend their whole lives avoiding. What do I really want? Most of us rush through life checking boxes and meeting expectations, but rarely pausing long enough to consider what actually lights us up inside. Being lost presses pause. It interrupts the autopilot. It demands you look inward. Yet the problem is, we've been taught to fear uncertainty, like it's something shameful, something to hide. We think we're supposed to have it all figured out by a certain age, as if there's an invisible clock ticking down on our worth. But life doesn't work like that. The truth is, no one has it all figured out, not really. Even the most successful, inspiring people you admire have questioned their path countless times. Some of the greatest ideas, most influential businesses, and world-changing breakthroughs were born from people who at one point felt completely and utterly lost. The difference is, they didn't let that feeling paralyze them. They didn't sit around waiting for a lightning bolt of clarity to strike. Instead, they took action. They explored. They tried things. They failed, learned, adjusted, and through that process, they eventually found their way. If you're feeling lost right now, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Sitting around, overthinking every possibility, waiting for a perfect plan to fall into your lap, or hoping for a sign from the universe to show up in flashing neon lights, it won't happen. Clarity doesn't come from endless thinking. It comes from doing. It comes from taking a step, any step. From trying things, making mistakes, collecting new information, and moving forward bit by bit. Every single step you take, even if it's in the wrong direction, gives you fresh perspective. And that new perspective helps you make better decisions the next time around. I've met so many people who say they're afraid to try something new because they don't want to waste time. But let me tell you something important. The only time truly wasted is the time spent doing nothing, trapped in indecision. Even if you take a job you end up hating, even if you start a project that fails spectacularly, even if you walk down a path that turns out to be a dead end, you still gain something invaluable. You learn what doesn't work. You learn what doesn't feel right. You learn what drains you instead of energizing you. And every one of those lessons brings you one step closer to what will work, what will feel right, what will make you feel alive. Every experience teaches you something, but only if you're willing to step into it in the first place. One of the biggest reasons people stay lost is fear. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of picking the wrong job, the wrong career, the wrong passion, as if one misstep will doom them forever. But here's the truth. You are never stuck. You always have the power to change direction. You always have the freedom to pivot, to adjust, to begin again. The only real way to stay stuck is to stay frozen, in fear, refusing to move at all. Because it's only by moving even imperfectly that you start to see what's possible. Sometimes we stay lost because we're waiting for the perfect answer, one clear, definite path that makes everything suddenly make sense. But life isn't neat like that. Life is messy. Sometimes the path forward looks like a series of wrong turns and unexpected detours. Sometimes you have to take a step into the unknown before you can even begin to see where you're going. And that's not just normal, it's necessary. If you wait until you're 100% certain before you make a move, you'll wait forever. But if you take one small step, you'll start to see new options you never even knew existed. And let's talk honestly about setbacks, because if you're feeling lost, chances are you faced your share of disappointments. Maybe you took a risk that didn't pan out. Maybe you worked for years towards something that ended up slipping through your fingers. After realizing that feeling lost can lead to discovery, there's one more truth you need to hear. Setbacks are not the end, they are powerful teachers. Because yes, maybe you worked hard for something, and it didn't turn out the way you hoped. Maybe you poured your time, your heart, your dreams into a path that fell apart. And now you're left wondering if it was all for nothing. But hear me. Clearly, nothing is wasted. Every challenge, every failure, every wrong turn, it's all part of the process. The lessons you learn in those moments shape you, prepare you, and give you the wisdom and resilience you'll need for whatever comes next. Some of the most incredible comebacks in history happened because people refused to let failure define them. They refused to believe they were lost forever. They looked at every setback as a setup for a stronger, wiser return. And if they could do it, so can you. So if you're feeling lost today, remember this. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are in a season of discovery. And discovery doesn't happen by standing still. It happens by moving. Try something new. Learn something fresh. Meet new people. Explore opportunities that scare you a little. Say yes to things you'd normally avoid. Do anything except sit frozen in your fears. Because when you keep moving even imperfectly, the path will slowly start to reveal itself. And one day, you'll look back at this moment, the moment you thought you were lost, and realize it was actually the beginning of something incredible. Work is important. It gives us purpose, helps us grow, and provides for our needs. But somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that work is everything, that our careers define our worth, that our value is measured by our productivity, that if we're not achieving something big every moment, we're somehow falling behind. And because of that belief, we pour everything we have into our jobs, hoping they'll finally give us the fulfillment we crave. But here's the truth. You need to hear, work is just one chapter of your life, not the whole story. If you make it your entire book, you'll wake up one day realizing you've missed everything else. And the saddest part, you can never get that time back. I've seen people who reached the absolute peak of professional success, only to look around and realize they had no real relationships, no joy, no sense of who they were outside of their work. They sacrificed everything: family friendships, their health, their passions, telling themselves, "Once I make it, life will finally feel complete." But when they got there, it wasn't enough. Because no job, no title, no paycheck can replace the things that truly make life rich. We are not just workers. We are friends, sons, daughters, spouses, parents, neighbors. We are people with dreams outside our careers. And if we don't make time for those parts of ourselves, if we don't nurture them, they slip away before we even realize what we've lost. I once spoke to a man who spent his entire life building a successful business. He worked tirelessly, always telling his family, "I'm doing this for you." But in the process, he missed birthdays, anniversaries, and all the little moments that make life meaningful. When he finally retired, he had the money. He had the status. But he had lost connection with the people who mattered most. And he told me something I'll never forget. "I built an empire, but I lost my world." We convince ourselves we'll make time later. We tell ourselves, after this next big project, after the next promotion, after we hit this milestone, then we'll slow down. Then we'll spend more time with our families. Then we'll take care of our health. Then we'll enjoy life. But later keeps getting pushed further and further away until one day we look up and realize life has passed us by. The hardest lesson to learn is that life doesn't wait. The people who love you want you now. Your kids are growing up now. Your body needs care now. The conversations, the laughter, the small moments that make life beautiful, they're happening now. If you keep telling yourself you'll enjoy life once you've worked hard enough, you'll never actually get around to living it. That doesn't mean work isn't important. Of course it is, but it's not the only thing that matters. Success is hollow if you have no one to share it with. Achievements feel empty if you're burned out, disconnected, and alone. And the saddest feeling in the world is looking back at the end of your life and realizing you spent decades climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. So what's the answer? It's surprisingly simple: balance. Not a perfect, color-coded, minute-by-minute schedule. Because, let's be honest, life is rarely that tidy. But balance in a way that reminds you your job is a part of your life, not the entirety of it. Balance that comes from making small, intentional choices, like putting your phone down at dinner so you can be fully present. Like choosing to take care of your health. Not just when it's convenient, but because you owe it to yourself and those who love you. Like carving out time for hobbies, passions, and moments of joy, not because they're productive or impressive, but because they make life feel alive. And, maybe most importantly, it means choosing to define success on your own terms. Not based on what looks good to others, not based on what society says should matter, but based on what actually makes you feel alive, whole, and at peace. Because the real measure of success isn't just what you accomplish, it's how you feel about the life you've built when you look back one day. Because in the end, it won't be the late nights at the office or the extra hours working that you'll remember. It will be the people who stood by your side, the memories you made, the love you shared. And if you want those things to be there when you reach the end of your story, you have to make space for them now. Because at the end of the day, work is a chapter, but it's not the whole story. And the best stories? They're the ones overflowing with love, purpose, meaning, and a life truly lived.